from whatever point of view they represent.
Mhm.
Uh, and then you need to help them do that. So I think that's the first thing that I just wanted to say. I think it's super important for us to just know that people are going to have a lot to process in very different ways. So thank you again, though, for allowing me, because I am also a doer. And when I got up Wednesday morning, I thought, well, shoot, um, how do I get myself out of this? And I just started writing. And so one of the, I guess, just a couple of things I wanted to say is we've seen this movie before, um, and we came out of it really in a really great shape. And to build and to like, and then we were able to build on that in this last administration. So I just want to point out all of the sort of great movement that started. I mean, there's tons of data points, but like the corporate procurement of renewable energy really got its tailwinds during that time period. And we've added, what is it, 122 gigawatts, I think, since like 2017. I know that includes a little bit of the last couple of years, but still, some really great programs are launched in that time period. And so to me, that says like companies care about this. Oh, P.S. Europe. Like, I mean, CSRD is not going away. This is happening. And it's a great frame of reference. And so the thing I would caution though against it is making it that's compliance, right? We cannot stay in that compliance mode. We also need to think about how the script is somewhat different. Like, what in it? How can we marry innovation and sustainability? I see, and the good news is I see that already happening. I see companies. A couple of examples. Like, I love talking to Philips because they have done all of these great things to their medical equipment that are about emissions reductions, but that are also about like great business opportunities for the company. And there's some great stories emerging. And I think that leaning into that will really help the people on this call um, make the case within their own organizations. PepsiCo is a great example of a company that's embedded sustainability into their business development plans. And I think we're going to see more of that because it just makes sense for a lot of companies. I'm not Pollyannish enough to ignore the fact that we have a lot of individuals that are, bad mouthing ESG, but it's more we can tie this important work that we're doing. And I guess I put myself in this category because I'm writing about it, but like the better, right? So those are a couple of things I wanted to say just out of the gate. I do think we need to accelerate the short-term wins. Like from a journalist perspective, I've already been looking at this more, is we need to be talking about the practical, meaningful things that we've done and that continue to happen. And I'm standing by waiting to write about them. There's I don't know if anyone from Workday is on here, but I'm working on a story about some of the work they're doing on methane. I think methane is such an under discussed lever right now, and not just for food. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities there. Um, Two other things I'll say is that we need to really lean into the subnational policy like we did in the 2017 to 2021 timeframe. Build on that. That's where things are happening already. The clean power transition, clean transition power tariffs. I'm messing the name up because I'm so worked up, but state level stuff, right? And there's people on this call that are much more versed to speak about that. The last thing I'll leave you with is that we need to communicate in a different way. This is not about doom and gloom. This is about opportunity. And also, we got to get out of our echo chamber. We are too much in the same, our events, my company's events are guilty of this. I mean, we are just in an echo chamber and we got to get out of it. I'm having a hard time pushing myself out. There's a lot of the things that we have to do. They're going to be super hard to do. It's like super hard for me to set my feelings aside right now. But I think I need to do that. And I think we all need to just open our ears, listen, and just act on what we know is right. And that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Heather. That was awesome. Matt, you want to go next?
Yeah.
Mr. Author here.
Yeah, sure. So, hey, folks, I know some of you are already connected with me, and you know that I often take a pragmatic, business-focused approach to corporate sustainability, ESG. I'm going to echo some of what Heather said, but really this chat is not going to be any different than what you might have come to expect from me. If the past 10 years have taught me anything, it is to expect the unexpected. And this time around, though, I am really feeling it. I mean, I said to somebody the other day, it's not really a great time to have written an ESG book. Like, why would that be? What? This is a disaster. But I actually now think that this is the exact right time to have written an ESG book. So let me explain what I mean. I really encourage you all to think about this beyond the US election and consider how incumbent candidates around the world, they weren't reelected either. The challenge here isn't just limited to the US view, because global leadership hasn't necessarily ever had to deal with a Trump administration before, because those incumbents are no longer here. And you see this in the broader news journals around the sheer volume of what Mike said earlier, this word uncertainty. We have economists, world leaders, and your board, none of them know what will happen next. Now, it can be easy to kind of slip into this reductionist view where Trump rolls back environmental regulations and protections and companies shift their mindsets back to shareholder primacy. Heather, I heart you, but I actually think CSRD is not going to be applied to non-EU headquartered companies, but that is a separate conversation. I think there is a very plausible scenario that some of these things may happen. Every boardroom now has a new unpredictable stakeholder they have to worry about, which is the incoming president. And we've seen his influence over companies. Earlier this year, John Deere announced it was going to move manufacturing to Mexico, and he stepped in to threaten tariffs. So boards are going to be on hyper alert not to make him upset. And so I think we've seen kind of the E and the S take center stage after 2020. And Heather did a great job of framing that. It really, E and S kind of tipped over, but now it's governance's turn in the spotlight at that intersection of the work that you all do. So there is hope here, but we all have a role to play. And this is a tough week to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We all know sustainability professionals have gone from this impact to this accounting with pockets of business integration, depending on the company. I'm hopeful that we are about to see a heavy swing back into business integration. Because of that word that I said earlier, this uncertainty, companies pull back on ESG efforts, or they believe that they can return to a business as usual. This is just an illusion of some normalcy that was never a thing. Crises will come, and companies are not going to be able to rely on groups like the federal government to step in and help anymore. You need to capitalize on this uncertainty and empower your leadership team to understand the business intersection of these challenges. You should already be well positioned to do this, because if you're like every other sustainability office, you've built relationships across the businesses, you've collected activity data for reporting. Leverage those relationships to have these conversations. Start with the business, though, because that is the way that you're going to get the focus you need to get through the next 4 years. And I'm going to stop there. 3.5 minutes.
Nice, Matt. All right. Well, why don't we shift over to some advocacy folks? Anne, you want to go next? Tell us a little bit about Ceres and the work that you guys have been doing for many, many decades, but and kind of where you think it's heading next.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thanks so much. And wonderful to be with so many friendly faces. And I'm loving this narrative in the chat. Mike, I hope we can capture this. And at the beginning of the call, we said, maybe this group needs to meet again. I say yes to that. We need each other right now. This is not an easy moment. I agree with Heather, but I'm excited about what's possible. And partly because we survived 2016 so robustly. I want to just note that my role at Ceres is Vice President of Government Affairs. We run a policy shop. We have a bench, a wonderful policy network bench of 80 Fortune 500 companies, many of whom are on this call, and another 200 companies that we work with in 20 states, as well as at the federal level, and we will be at the COP in Baku. So what I'm offering is an on-ramp to safe, big tent advocacy. And I think there's 4 things we have to hold up as advantages this round that we did not have in 2016. Of course, in 2016, as you recall, when President-elect Trump threatened to leave the Paris Agreement, we launched We Are Still In. That became America is Still In. Everyone said, President-elect, stay in the Paris Agreement. Even our friends at ExxonMobil said, stay in the agreement. Let's hope, perhaps we can convince him accordingly. There are now thousands of cities, states, businesses, investors, faith groups, healthcare institutions, higher ed, and others who are part of America is All In. So we may see another round of that. But the 4 things I wanted to highlight, first off, in 2016, we didn't have
and historic Inflation Reduction Act that we have now. We didn't have the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Between those two, we've created over 312 new jobs, 85,000 of which are manufacturing jobs. There are 585 projects for renewable energy. Most of those are in red states. Those can be celebrated. I'm going to put a letter in the chat, which is from 18 House Republicans supporting the IRA tax credits. 18 Republicans, and these are not all just from New York and California. They're from Georgia and Utah and Nebraska and Ohio, and those are allies. Let me take this opportunity to invite you to join us on Capitol Hill the first week of December. You are all welcome. It is fun, free, friendly. I won't use any more F words, but you can come and join us and talk to lawmakers behind the scenes. Let me emphasize behind the scenes. That's how we got those 18 House Republicans with behind the scenes, no press meetings, one-to-one, to tell Republican lawmakers, this is an economic issue. Climate risk is economic risk. There is a competitive advantage to the U.S. by investing in the clean energy economy. Let's do it. They need to hear from you. And again, contact me. I'll make the details available first week in December, and then we're going to have a party that night. Secondly, states are more organized and effective than they were in 2016. We can only look to go Washington State for keeping its Climate Commitment Act. Thanks to those of you who supported the No on 2117 campaign. So the referendum went down. We've seen phenomenal leadership in California, in New York, in Michigan, and Minnesota. I could go on. And states are completely poised to continue to be effective in their own jurisdictions. Third, we know the difference between real threats and bluster. And with all due respect, sometimes you see bluster from the president-elect. In 2016, initially, I remember hearing the shell shock from companies not wanting to be tweeted against, being very afraid. And then I remember how that broke down and how we realized that many of the threats just simply were not real. Now, some of those are going to be real. And we also are going to have to stand up. There's going to be times when collectively in our safe tent, we will diplomatically be saying, no, that would tear down democracy. You can't do that. We'll do it safely. We'll do it together. We'll do it in appropriate means, and we'll do it diplomatically. But we are not going to roll over and play dead or crawl under a rock while our democracy is decimated. Just saying. The fourth good news is that we have Republican allies. Not just the ones that I'm going to highlight in this letter, but we have Senator Curtis from Utah. He was, as a House member, he set up the Conservative Climate Caucus in the House. Now he's a senator. He's keen to do the same at the Senate level. We need to continue to build those alliances with Republicans that we didn't have in 2016. And again, remember, many of them are deeply supportive of the kind of clean energy development that you're seeing in places like Dalton, Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, this is where Q-Cells is. Thank you, Microsoft, for investing in Q-Cells. Largest solar manufacturing facility in the country, 2,500 jobs in rural Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Governor Kemp have said yes. We're seeing the same in West Virginia. So there's plenty of terrific apolitical economic messages that you all are uniquely positioned to convey. You have tremendous credibility as major employers committed to your climate goals, committed to your climate targets. And what we have for you and what you have yourselves is a clean, clear, compelling economic message. We'd love to help you deliver that to lawmakers. I look forward to the larger discussion. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you. And everybody that has to jump, this is going to be recorded, at least this part of it. So I'm going to do a write-up probably on my website and have that out on Monday with the recording. So don't feel like you have to capture everything. Patrick, you go next. I know you got a lot of things on your mind. So
Yeah, I'm
Let's
going
hear-
to talk fast. Thank you, Mike.
yeah,
You all for being on this adventure with me. Our path together has always been about finding a way through uncharted territory towards a goal, and none of that has changed. But the path has become steeper, more perilous, less clear, and we can tell a storm is coming. Everyone, please read Paul Hawkins' beautiful commencement address to the University of Portland in 2009. It's my favorite way to recharge the batteries. You can find it on Common Dreams. You are brilliant and the earth is hiring rings truer than ever for me. And for today, he said back then, When I'm asked if I am pessimistic or optimistic about the future, my answer is always the same. If you look at the science about what is happening on Earth and aren't pessimistic, you don't understand the data. But if you meet the people who are working to restore this Earth and the lives of the poor, and you aren't optimistic, you haven't got a pulse. So thank you all for being here with me. My own words finally came to me yesterday, and I wrote them in a LinkedIn post. I hope you'll find them valuable. In this new chapter of my career leading Switchboard, I'm using the power of connection to accelerate climate action, sharing pre-competitive wisdom with one another more freely and frequently, and critically, stepping together into the high-stakes moments where there's a lot at hand and where the business voice is critical in changing the outcome. We still face a climate challenge that requires rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented forward progress. So that's a heavy reality today. Let's not forget that every tenth of a degree helps, and we must not aim small. Les Brown says, it's better to aim high and miss than to aim low and hit. So carve out as much of your limited time to focus on efforts that can get big enough, fast enough for the planet to notice with strength in numbers. Protect your time from you and your team to keep doing that. You can look to my LinkedIn post as a place to get heads up when those high stakes moments appear. I try to break them down in a 2-minute video for you. My only goal is to help you help the planet for free. So now some insight here. We have to accelerate in the large pockets where progress is in the money, job accretive, community supportive, renewables, batteries, electrification, efficiency, regenerative ag, preserving nature rather than destroying it. Your teams in your companies, like Mike said, are going to have to get way sharper on the business case and the strategic case. Now, the work you do with other stakeholders in your company, gov affairs, finance, procurement, et cetera, it's going to be harder for them to prioritize your goals amidst all the uncertainty and the curveballs they're going to be hitting. So where you do have momentum, push forward faster than ever before and bring others with you. So if you've got a seam, scale up that next project and offer parts of the offtake to stakeholders around you. Help one another. I anticipate there will be times where we need to come together in solidarity to prevent backsliding as well. So we'll need to spend a bit of time on that. Now, at the top, I mentioned we've always been on the path of uncharted territory towards the goal. What's the goal? I'd like to offer that the highest level goal we might share is to deliver the greatest good to the greatest amount of life over the long term. So ahead, we must unite under some common goals, make space to disagree with one another about the theory of change, spot unintended consequences and blind spots for one another, but also give each other a hell of a lot of grace, put smaller disagreements aside, and move as one. And I'll close with, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need to go far, fast, so we must go together as one. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks, Patrick. All right. Last speaker, and then we'll go into the breakout rooms. Jennifer, tell us about Climate Voice.
Thank you so much, Mike. And Patrick, thank you for that inspiration. So I lead campaigns for Climate Voice. And despite these very disappointing results of this election, we know several things are still true. We know that policy is the transformative lever to address the climate crisis at scale. So we at Climate Voice, and I hope all of you, are going to be focused with Anne, defending the IRA, moving and pivoting to state and local policies, doing everything we can to center policy as the answer. We also know that companies exert incredible influence and that employees can push their employers to advocate for more and more ambitious climate action. So we're going to continue our mission to do that. And we know that sustainability professionals play a critical role and can actually amplify your impact when you raise your voices together. So I hope many of you know our founder, Bill Weil. He gave the keynote speech at the GreenBiz 24 conference in February. And he told the audience, you don't know the power of your voice until you lose it. And as many of you also know, Bill tragically lost his speaking voice, his ability to speak, due to ALS. But that has not stopped him from speaking up loudly and clearly with the help of AI and through his writing. He even just spoke on Mike's podcast, and I hope all of you will listen to that, and I highly recommend it. And that kind of commitment is such an inspiration, which is why I want to invite all of you to sign the lead statement. So I just put it in the chat. Raising our voices matter. As Patrick mentioned, raising them together matters even more. We know that policy is important. We are calling on companies to leave obstructing trade associations, to elevate climate policy as a major priority, to advocate for all of the policies that in everywhere they operate, and to demonstrate the commitment to the transition away from fossil fuels agreed to at COP28. We need your help to make this statement thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the field. Your voices really matter. Taking a stand really matters. This is not committing your company to anything. This is agreeing to a set of principles. I know that Patrick was one of our first signatories, and I hope you will join the over 1,000 people. Then our tagline is when employees speak, companies act. And we have run a number of campaigns to organize employees to unlock their own power by advocating positively within their companies to hold their companies accountable, to live up to their green reputations, to what they really need to do. And to that end, we are hosting a webinar. It's a cross-company webinar on December 3rd called Why Companies Should Lobby for Climate and How Employees Can Help. We would love you all to join us. We would love you to spread the word. We're going to be highlighting success stories and obviously discussing the challenges ahead. We are trying to build a new coalition, an enduring constituency for climate action that can speak out on this topic no matter who is running the White House. We would love you to join us. Advocacy is where it's at. And Patrick, we are with you and ready to give alerts to this community of the most important actions that they can take. So join this community of lead signatories. We will be trying to activate and galvanize each other. We are not alone, and we welcome all the fight ahead.
All right, thanks everybody. That was the most efficient panel I think I've ever moderated. I think what I'm hearing here is it's okay to feel the feels right now. Let it soak in. It's completely fine, and it's normal to feel sad, scared. I'm feeling all those things. I know I seem like I'm pretty straight-faced right now, but this is how I deal with emotion, is by doing stuff. And I think that's helpful. If for you is if getting involved with your company, getting involved with an advocacy group helps you channel that energy. But I think the thing that we have to make sure we're not doing is giving up. Progress is really a pendulum, and we move forward, we move backward, but we have to keep the momentum going. I'm feeling really feisty right now, like really like in a fighting mood. I'm pretty angry, but also realizing that we need to fight back. We can't let this stand. And that's the great thing about democracy, right? Like we lost this time around. And again, it's not about we, right? It shouldn't be Democrat versus Republican. This is bigger than that. It's corporate sustainability professionals. We have an opportunity to speak up as one voice to really tell people who maybe don't understand how sustainable business works that we're not here just because we like hugging trees. I mean, some of us do. I don't mind that sometimes, but we're here because it makes sense for business, and it also makes sense for our society. So thank you all for being here today. Maybe we'll get a Slack going so people can kind of stay engaged. Maybe we can, we'll make like a monthly call or something where people can connect and engage throughout, because I think we gotta get ready for the storm that's coming in 2025 and be ready for it. At least we've got a couple months notice now. So I think we can prep ourselves mentally and just, as we heard from our speakers today, there's lots of great organizations doing great work out there. We're not starting from scratch. So if you're looking to get involved, lots of opportunities. And I think at the very least, if you're working in corporate sustainability, whether you're a consultant, whether you're in-house, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're policy, whatever, we're all on the same team here, even though we might not all work together. I do feel like we're all colleagues in different ways. That feeling of community, we got to just keep embracing that. Because I think a lot of people are just kind of feeling isolated right now. And I think making sure that everybody knows that there is a space for venting, and for not just venting without direction, but I think it's okay to vent, but then we need to just roll up our sleeves and get to work. So again, thanks everybody for coming here today, and thanks to all of our speakers. All right, guys, well, hang in there. Have a good weekend. And as always, feel free to reach out if you ever have a question about anything, and just know you're not alone in this, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to keep fighting. So have a good rest of your days, and thanks for being here, and talk to y'all later.